So in this video, we are going to look at creating a Zoom session, and we're going to look at some specific features so that you know who's in your session. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our external tool that we've already made. And once again, here I'm going to go ahead and schedule a new meeting. Give it whatever name you want. I'm going to skip a lot of this part because we've already talked about it in the other video. But down here, you need to have a password. If you change this password, I believe your kids will have to type it in. Otherwise, it kind of lets them in with the link that's created without entering the password. So depending on the age of your students, you may want to change that. You may not. That's up to you. But one thing here that's going to help you is make sure that this checkbox for Enable Waiting Room is checked. This basically, your students, when they join, they should be signing in as guests, which allows them, it automatically pulls their name, but they could change it during the meeting as a guest. So it's not going to show you an email later on of who was signed in or who wasn't signed in, unless they are signing in with a Zoom account, which they should not be, because most of our students are not old enough to have Zoom accounts on their own anyways. I would never turn this enabled to join before a host is on. You want that waiting room. These other options are up to you. Do not turn on this only authenticate users. That's going to get them stuck because they're signing in as guests, so it's not going to pull an email to authenticate them. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And then from here, I'm going to show you some of the things you should do before you start your meeting. So the first one was make sure your waiting room is turned on. Password, make sure it has something filled in there. But it's passwords autofill. Okay. So let's say you're ready to start the meeting. I'm going to say join with computer audio. Those people should be waiting in the waiting room. Okay. Before you allow anybody to join from the waiting room, you're going to hit this little button that says more. And make sure this little button that says allow participants to rename themselves is unchecked. This means that when they're in the waiting room, it pulls in their name. If they've changed their name before, it's going to pull in whatever they had changed it to before. But it's going to pull in their name. And then once they come into the meeting would be when they have the opportunity to change their name. They don't get the opportunity to change their name until after they're in the meeting. So if you have this unchecked before you add anybody from the waiting room, they shouldn't be changing their name after the fact, so you don't know who they are. When students are coming in, they are going to need to download Zoom and open it with the desktop app. If they try to open from the browser, so far what I have seen is it's asking them to sign in with a Zoom account. We do not want students making Zoom accounts. So they just open the desktop app, and that's how they're going to get in. So I've opened it on a student side, so you're going to see it pop up over here. So here is my student. And then as long as I recognize the name, I can go ahead and hit admit and add them to the class. And since I've already turned off the feature where they can't change their name, the name is going to stay that way. They can't change it, so you'll be able to identify who's in your meeting. If you see any names here that you don't know, don't add them into your meeting. So you have kind of three things there. Make sure your password, you have a password set there. Set it so that there's a waiting room, and then change it from the participant tab so that this is unchecked. If you have students who are misbehaving, you can always go and you can remove them. If I admit this student and they're joined in, I can always hit the little more tab over here, and I could put them back into the waiting room, or I could remove them completely. At this point, if you remove them, they could join back in and they're just going to sit in the waiting room. But the waiting room is going to have the same effect where they're not able to interact or do anything with any other people. So there are some options kind of for you to, like virtual classroom management, just to protect yourself in your Zoom. Kids are going to say things and kids are going to do things at times that make you want to go crazy. But here's some control that you can have on that.